Welcome to our very first episode of our Counterculture podcast. Today we're so excited that we have Pastor Victor and Araceli Chavarria alongside Pastor Steve and Marilyn Sorenson covering topics on marriage, family, parenting, and boundaries.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that Pastor Steve and Miss Marilyn are here with us. And so we want to dive in immediately into family matters and talking about family. And by the way, my beautiful wife is with us as well, Araceli Chavarria. And of course, we want to jump right in to the first question about family. What is the main purpose of a family? Pastor Steve or Miss Marilyn?
You looking at me?
One of the two of you take a crack at it.
Well, let's bounce back and forth a little bit here. I think that the main purpose, one of the main purposes, and there are several, and I think that all purposes are main. I'll go that far. But I'll say that companionship, from the very beginning, God said it's not good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
And so when you start thinking about companionship, I think there's a sense of completion between us. Even Ecclesiastes says, hey, two better travel together, because if one falls, you got nobody to pick you up.
That's so good.
But if there's two. So in my opinion, one of the principal reasons that God established male and female, and incidentally, getting a little edgy here, that's all there is.
Come on.
But he established male and female that they would be together as companions, walking through this life in harmony and executing the purposes of God. For me, it's that easy.
Yeah. And I like that because it's not just in the family. We all need that. We all need companionship. God says it's not good for man to be alone. Mm-hmm. What do you think, honey?
Well, I'm just thinking companionship, and that's what family was created for. Then you better spend a good amount of time picking that right companion, because it's supposed to be for a lifetime. And I'd hate to think about what happens. Well, we know what happens when we pick the wrong companion, right? So,
well, what happens when we pick the wrong companions? I mean, what happens if there's someone that's watching or listening to this and they're saying, well, that sounds great, but I don't have the best companion. And we're talking about marriage specifically. What are your thoughts on that? And what would you say to someone that maybe is in that predicament? Any one of the two, you can take it.
It's your turn, baby.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Well, and that does happen a lot of times. Yeah. But a lot of times we blame our difficulties in a relationship strictly on the other person.
Well,
when in fact, a lot of the problems it's the combination that's having the problem. It's not either one of the people, but it's the putting of them together. And it takes some real honest conversation to determine what the root of the problem is and whether or not they want to solve it. Because when you're married, you have to work on building a relationship, and you have to acknowledge that there's going to be tough times.
That's good.
So now it comes down to how much do you care about that relationship?
Well,
do you want it to last? If you do, you will work at it. And it does take both people to work at it, but one with the Lord can make a difference. Even if the other one is not coming along immediately, they may be brought to a point where they're willing to work at it if God is with you.
I love that.
She's 100% right in that. And I won't even step back a little bit further, that I don't think that, well, let me say that divorce rate's over 50%.
That's crazy.
And so there's a lot of people that are getting divorced. Mm-hmm. And I think that they got married with the wrong purpose in mind.
The wrong purpose in mind.
They didn't get married for the right reason. They got married because I need this and I need this. And they're not complete in themselves, so they got nothing to contribute to the relationship. They just want it. Well, and Marilyn will tell you that there's a lot of people on the other end that once they satisfy your need and you begin to develop and mature, then that need goes away. So's the marriage.
That's good.
You agree with that?
I do, absolutely. If you're marrying for a mother, or you're marrying because you need a father image, or whatever it is, Charles Swindoll, who is a great pastor, once said, you should never get married until you don't need to. It should be a choice because it's what you want, and you want that person, and you want to make their life better. So it's a really good piece of advice. So sometimes bad companionship comes because the need can't be met by the other person. They don't want to do it. You have to know why you're married and why you're in that relationship and what you expect out of that relationship before you can fix it.
So it's that
That's
purpose.
Good. That's purpose.
purpose.
Why am I getting married? Why do I want to contribute, or what do I want to do? Do I just want to suck from it? You know, there's givers and takers.
Absolutely.
And a marriage that's built on two takers ain't going to last.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
And I think anybody will tell you that.
yeah. Well, I wish I could say that most of us married thinking I'm going to contribute, but we're looking at we're looking at the opposite side. We're going like, oh man, look at this! Look what the Lord has done. You know, we're not
exactly.
thinking contributing. We're thinking,
He brought us through it.
oh, we're thinking other things, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of people get married because they're in heat. They're certainly not in love.
Yeah, I remember someone telling me, well, I felt the Lord telling me she's the one for me. It's like, are you sure it was the Lord and not hormones?
Listen, it was worse than that. I've had people that are married that are saying, no, this isn't the right one. God showed me another one.
Oh, God.
I said, I don't know who your God is, but he's not the same one I got.
Oh, wow.
Well, I guess the question now is, what do you do? Because that's great advice, and I hope our listeners that are single take heed to this word. But what do you say to someone who said, okay, I married because I was in heat, or I married because I was looking for a father figure, or I married because she was just the one that was there and I needed companionship and I just married this person, or I was pressured into it. What do you tell that person?
Suck it up.
Buttercup.
Buttercup.
That's true.
Yeah.
What do you say to that? I mean, anyone wants to take a crack at that?
I think we'd agree that might take more than a 1 hour podcast to straighten that up. But it would take a series of counseling sessions, because we have to help people establish what's your new purpose.
There you go.
How are we going to turn this around?
Perfect.
Because I did it wrong.
Yeah.
How do I get it fixed? Well, they're
That's
not
good.
going to just do it by going to find a new boyfriend,
Right.
because they're going to have the same problem, or a new girlfriend. It's going to be the same problem.
Yeah.
Right.
True
They
statement.
just transport it to a new, bunch of people.
And don't you agree that would even be worse than where they're at right now?
Well, they're going to add to their numbers.
Correct? Yeah.
See, we live in a society now where people are doing body counts.
Body counts.
Body
Oh,
counts.
body.
How many people can I have sex with before I settle down?
Yeah.
That's the stupidest thing
Yeah.
I'm talking about my age here. I'm
Yeah.
almost 80, but
there you go.
but that's the game nowadays, and that's how relationships have changed. But if people want godly relationships, they better go back and figure out what God purposed, what He purposed for them.
That
Is there a
word,
word like that?
keeps coming back.
In
Purpose.
purpose?
I love that. Purpose.
No, she says
No,
no.
but it works.
Yeah.
No, it's the thing is, if someone is having a hard time, do they want to have it work? And I think that's a question that isn't asked enough.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will come in and they just want to talk about the bad things. And what you need to get them to focus on is what has been good.
Well, I love that.
And it takes a while.
I love that.
But once they start saying, well, we've go out and we've had some nice vacations, or we've had
Beautiful children.
we've had great kids,
Yeah.
or we've got some good
I
friends.
love that.
Once you start looking at the positive, you can see what's worth saving.
Yes.
They won't work at it if they don't see something positive.
Right.
So the first thing is to get that focus.
Yeah.
Like a kaleidoscope. Let's just shift the scene here a little bit. What drew you to the person in the first place?
That's
What
good.
did you like?
That's good.
And is that still there? Isn't that still true about this person? Maybe they're a good wage earner. Maybe she's a good cook.
We need to fix Pastor Steve's microphone over there. It seems like he's...
There you go. It was dancing for him.
I must have very important things to say
It weighs.
in ways.
But you have to get to a point where you get to the very basics. I remember
I love
teaching, I brought up the idea of the Constitution, and I saw a puzzled look on the student's face. And I said, do you remember that the Constitution is a piece of paper with words written on it?
Oh.
And it was just startling. Like, oh, I had no idea that's
didn't
what we're
know
talking
that.
about.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So in a relationship, it's the same thing. Let's get down to the basics. What did you like? What can we build on? And then you go from there.
Right.
And I love the fact that you're bringing that word. I'm listening to this word pop up a lot, which is purpose.
Purpose.
And you mentioned it, Miss Marilyn, about the fact that you need to go back again to and find. We tend to focus on all the negative things. Focus on the one thing that is positive.
Yes.
That you can build on top of.
That you can build on.
I love that. Back to purpose, right?
Back to purpose.
You need to find that purpose.
Can I go a little bit
Deeper.
I just want to preach for a minute.
Come on, preacher.
The scripture says that marriage represents the church in its relationship to Christ.
Right.
How's that work? Well, it works like this, I think.
Yeah.
That it seems to me that many times people get married as dysfunctional people.
Correct.
They have big needs. They're not all together. They're looking for help, that kind of thing.
But we're
you-
imperfect people.
Yeah, but if you have 50 imperfect relationships come to the church,
Yes.
you have a dysfunctional church
good point.
because they import everything that they are as the church is. Now remember, we're relating it to the marriage of us as the bride of Christ.
Correct.
And so a marriage should be absolutely functional with purpose, and it should work so that when we all come together, we can do it in harmony. We can do it without arguing. Where do you think all these denominations came from? Fist fights inside the church. Where does that come from? Dysfunctional families inside the church.
Yeah.
And so if we could marry those thoughts
Yeah.
and say, look, we need to solidify our families. We need to learn like Christ
Yeah.
meant for it to be,
Yeah.
by a husband and wife coming together where everybody accepts their role, not their superiority, not their inferiority,
Yeah.
the husband, the wife, that kind of thing, but accepts their role
Yeah.
in the marriage. Then functionality comes back to the church. Is there a word like that?
Functionality. I
Yes,
like that.
that
I like
works.
that.
That's a good
And,
word.
That's a good
and
word.
so I think that as we represent the church, people should be able to see us and say, well, great harmony.
Yeah.
I'd like to go where they go to church.
Absolutely.
Instead of, well, their church just enjoyed their fifth separation, their fifth split.
Yeah.
And so 5 more churches started, and some real theologian would say, well, that's the way we reach more people, by
Yeah.
dividing and
Yeah. I hear
get
you.
lost.
Yeah.
If it's a church that's in a fight,
Yeah.
they're going to start a church that's going to be in a fight,
Yeah.
because you take your fight with you.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to say that in reality, purpose of companionship
Yeah.
is important.
Yes.
Purpose of representing Christ
Yes.
puts a new level on it.
That's good.
Yeah. You know, that's as we've been talking here, I was reminiscing a little bit on the mic falling.
We have disobedient mics. Satan, you
Yeah,
get your
we
hand off
do.
our mics.
But I was thinking back
so.
on the days that Vic and we used to struggle a lot. And I used to wonder what purpose could this serve in my life, this man, because, wow.
This man.
We had a really, really hard time for a while, as you know, because you guys helped us through some of those years. And one of the things that I kept going back to was, because we had kids already, what legacy am I going to leave my children about the Lord if I divorce my husband?
Was there ever the thought?
Several times, I'm sure.
You mean how many times
Several
a day?
times. We really went through some really hard times where I don't think Vic knew his role as a husband. I didn't know my role as a wife.
Yeah.
And I married older also. And
Very independent. By the way, that's what you were referring to when you said dysfunctional.
Yes.
Because there's a difference. People might say, well, I'm not perfect. Does that make me dysfunctional?
No.
Correct. Let's clarify.
I felt like I passed the test.
You
Good.
did.
Yeah, good. That's a good
You
answer.
did well.
But
Anyway, I'm sorry,
we
go ahead.
didn't know our expectations for each other, for our marriage and whatnot. But I knew that I was willing to work whatever it took and seek counsel and whatnot.
Because we were dysfunctional.
Right. We were very dysfunctional, yes. And it took an outside party, and thank God for that, to bring that to light. Because
would you say that dysfunctional, babe, is not doing the role of a husband, not doing the role of a wife?
Well, yeah, sure.
Could that be defined as?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Dysfunctional that way. Dysfunctional, not even understanding what the roles are supposed to be. Dysfunctional in the expectations that we had for each other, and not even communicating those expectations and expecting each other to know what those expectations were to begin with. I mean, we had so many dysfunctional things going on in our marriage. And I thank God, though, that both of us were willing to say, and I will say, though, also that for a long time, we were ashamed to talk to anyone about our situations, because we thought as Christians, we just needed to have it together. And we were not even in a pastoring role or anything like that. We were just people going to church at that moment when we first got married. Although I think you were working at the church. But we...
How can we be dysfunctional?
How could we be dysfunctional?
We're Christians.
We're Christians. So it took us maybe about two years to open up to anyone and say, we're struggling and I want to kill him. And I don't think he likes me very much. But there was even just such power in confession.
Yes.
And freedom in confession too, and just seeking out that help, putting that shame out, and just seeking help was the first step to a great marriage. So
it is.
That's really, talk about a little bit about the selfishness in a person, making it impossible to have harmony.
Well, I think our culture Satan has. Anything God created, Satan has tried to tear up. And the family is the core of his efforts, I think. So in our culture, we have totally obliterated the roles of both male and female. We first, we thought, well, we'll just make the woman, she can be all things. Well, she can't.
Come on.
And the man, they just wanted to kind of cover up his role completely. That children don't need fathers, men cannot lead their homes because that's not fair to the woman. And so all your TV shows, all of your everything was, men are not the leader. They don't have any real say. It's the woman who should have the power. Wow. It's the woman who should be educated. It should be the woman bringing home the money. Well, you get rid of those roles, and then you inundate people with that idea, and then they get married and they don't know how to interact because now we have no roles. You can't lead. I don't really want your job, but I don't want you to have it either.
Oh, come on. You're getting edgy, Miss Marilyn.
How many sitcoms, how many commercials, how many television presentations show Weak Willie as the husband? He's an idiot.
Yeah,
and it's for me, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but I will tell you that there's some organized plan, probably by Satan, to destroy the family, because in reality, if you destroy the family, you will destroy the church.
Well, how do you destroy the family if not by confusing the roles and back again to that purpose?
Right.
Well, go to the fact that God is called our Father.
Yeah, that's good.
So now if you ruin the Father's image in the family, you're going to be impacted when your faith.
Yes.
Because Father doesn't mean much to you. Father isn't in charge. Father doesn't make the rules.
Yes.
I do.
So who's saying now, Mother?
Yes.
Mother God, Mother Earth, Mother this, Mother that. It's all part of the same plan, isn't it, baby?
It is. And women are stressed and they're depressed and they can't determine what to do with themselves and how to handle situations because their role has been completely obliterated just as well as the man's role. Right. And so that relationship's just been kind of torn apart because the roles kind of create the relationship.
Right.
Okay, you're going to do this and I'm going to do this. And we can get it done that way. But when you say, no, that's not your job. That's my job too. You can't make a decision. Well, at some point, a decision has to be made. So am I saying that I make all the decisions and you don't make them? And they say, well, you have to agree. There are times when there's no way. Somebody has to make a decision.
And you talk about
In life, in
in
the
marriage,
household.
in a
Yes.
couple.
And the wife has to decide, when I relate to God, is it his decision or my decision? And in the family, which is supposed to represent that relationship, can my husband make a decision and I accept that?
Well, yeah, the Bible says that the man is the head of the household, right?
But we don't believe that in our
Which
culture.
I was gonna ask, because we're getting in deep into the roles and whatnot, but maybe some people who might be watching this do not even know
Or listening.
do not even know what a healthy, or don't have a healthy view of what the marriage
Bible
roles are.
tells me so.
Right. And they have maybe been taught differently,
Yeah.
or have grown up, with
Right.
with a different idea of what a husband needs to look like, what that role looks like. Because I know I was very intimidated by the submit to your husband because he is the head of the
That's giving up
whole-
control.
Right,
Yeah, that's
right.
hard.
So
That's
can we define what that looks like in
Well,
marriage?
I can tell you how
little
far
bit.
this goes. My cute little wife here. When we were in Italy, I'll tell you a couple stories about Italy. But anyway,
good.
we were driving into a small town. And in Italy, the culture is that the men at night, 6, 7 o'clock at night, would all go to the piazza. And they would smoke their cigars and drink their wine. The public
Town
place.
square.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
The town square.
Oh, I thought that
Piazza.
was a pizza place.
It's like a
Piazza.
plaza. It's like a plaza.
Piazza.
A plaza.
And
Plaza in Spanish.
well, that was Italian for the
Yeah,
town
yeah.
square.
That's good.
Anyway, they were in the piazza, and there were, I'll bet you, 150 men.
Wow.
And I very masculinely said to my wife, honey, this is the way it ought to be.
Ah.
Women ought to be home, taking care of the kids, doing the dishes, cooking
that
dinner,
was
while the
smart.
men are down here smoking their cigars and having a wonderful
That was
time.
a smart comment.
And my little sweetheart looked at me and she said, who do you think sent them there?
Smart lady.
They went because
Smart
we
lady.
said so.
Well, but I want to go back just a little bit to tell you that we went to Italy 4 times. The last one as missionaries.
Wow.
We ran a Christian Servicemen Center there for a military installation. And it was the same one where we had been. So it was kind of like going back home again.
Yeah.
And Marilyn didn't want to go.
She didn't want to go.
No,
Not that
no.
time.
I wrote a list out about all the reasons to stay in San Antonio and then all the reasons to go. And I wrote down Marilyn had 2 more years in the university
Yes.
to get a degree. My son had 2 more years of high school.
Yes.
My daughter was
Just out.
starting to get on her own and move out. I had just accepted. 30 days before that, I retired from the Air Force and took a job with more money than I'd ever made before.
Wow.
And and this list grew, the reasons
on.
to stay in San Antonio. We were in a great church. We had a cell group of 150 people
Wow.
at that time.
Good. Wow.
And we were meeting in a public building, and we had a little church.
Nice.
Anyway, all of these things. And over here, God said so.
Wow.
That's all there was.
I mean, like you were telling Marilyn, we got to go because God is telling
I
us.
said, honey, I can't stand it. God is nagging me
To go.
We've got to go back
to Italy.
to Italy. And we were going to work for the Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee, because they built that infrastructure of Christian servicemen centers around the world, doing a great job.
Great.
Anyway, I said, honey, we got to go. Her first thought was, I'm going to miss you. Because she didn't want to go.
Of course.
But ultimately, she said, if that's what God told you to do, we're going to pack it up and go.
Okay, I want to hear from her. What
You might
went-
not want to see you might not see the same gentle approach.
The Lord said.
The Lord said.
What went through your mind, your emotions? What?
Well, I really, things were to me so set where we were. Like I said, he said our daughter was just out of high school. She was living with a gal and a roommate. Didn't know how that was going to work out. Our son was going to be a junior in high school. Pulling him up taking him back overseas just seemed irresponsible. I was working on a teaching degree. I had about 2 years to go, and it just seemed like the wrong time. And he had a very good job. But several things happened, and God does this. When it's really something he wants, there will be indications if you're willing to look. And we had several attacks that just said, Satan really is fighting this.
Wow.
I mean,
fighting for you to leave or fighting
us to stay, I thought. I mean, we had a terrible blowout on a car going 70 miles an hour on I-10. Lightning hit our house.
What?
Middle of the night. Our daughter had a car accident. And it all happened within like 3 months. And I thought, this is too much. This is an attack.
Wow, yeah.
And so I said, God must really want us to do this, and Satan must really not want us to.
Wow.
So that was kind of what helped me make my decision. Plus, I have always believed God spoke to Steve.
Yeah.
I did.
Wow.
Years ago, when we were young and struggling, and my prayers were often directed to things that bothered me in the relationship.
Yeah.
Father, make him listen to me better. Make him, want to be home more, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And one day, God said, you're praying about your husband, but you're not praying for him.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I already know him.
That's good.
And that had been such an eye-opener for me, because I knew that I wanted things, but I wasn't sure just because I wanted them, they were the best things. And that's hard to come to.
Yeah.
Because when we want something, we assume it's good. We don't think,
Correct.
I want this, and it may cause someone pain, or it may cause problems for the family. We feel it's good.
Yeah, we never say, I'm going to choose this because I'm going to become an alcoholic, or I'm going to choose this because it's going to ruin my marriage. We never say that, right?
No.
We always want the good. I think everyone, except someone who's lost their mind, but majority of the people would say that's what they
want
choose.
is good. So if what I want is good and he wants something different, that pretty much puts his wants in a different category, doesn't it?
Yes.
Automatically. How can we both want good things if they're not the same thing? You know?
That's difficult.
So it took the Lord. He had to kind of speak to me. But if you want to do his will, and you will pay attention, I guarantee you he will tell you in one way or another, through some other person, through some event, through something, that this is what he wants you to do.
That's
good is the enemy of better. And better is the enemy of best.
That's good, yeah.
And if you're still satisfied with good, you'll never get better. And if you get satisfied with better, you'll never get the best.
Well, how do you distinguish?
Well, let me
to
tell you
better,
a
to
story.
best?
I worked for Pastor Hagee in San Antonio, Cornerstone Church, a man who I have tremendous respect for. He's a great man of God.
Great leader, amazing.
And he's a statesman to the world, I can tell you that. A very strong proponent of Israel, and got a church of a little over 20,000 people.
Yes.
He's very, very good friend. We
too.
spent some time with him, and it was great just the last couple of weeks. But he's German.
Yeah.
And along with that comes some German traits. And sometimes he's pretty strong.
Yeah.
He's always pretty strong
Yes.
in his opinion.
Yes.
Well, his wife Diana began to pray, God change him.
Really?
God modify
His behavior.
begin to tone him down a little bit, Father, because when he come out against something, it was powerful. I mean, we had the whole city of San Antonio boycott a movie theater because of the movie Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, wow.
And all Christians, at least in our church, didn't go.
Wow.
And that movie theater shut it down.
Wow.
Because we had that kind of
Influence.
That's him.
I mean,
He's
a good influence.
very strong man.
Very
Anyway,
strong
his
influence.
wife was saying, "Honey, God tone him down. He's a wonderful man, but tone him down a little bit."
Yeah.
And God told her, "Okay, I'm going to change him, but I can't use him anymore."
Oh, wow.
After that,
Wow.
you see, there's personalities in marriage,
Yeah.
in church,
Yeah.
in the world, That's what makes them successful. And that's exactly what God plugged into them.
Yeah.
And God was saying to her, I'll make him what you want him to be, but he'll no longer be of service to me.
Oh, wow. That's
And
powerful.
so she repented.
That's
I mean,
powerful.
in tears, she
That's
repented.
powerful.
She said, just leave him alone.
I want to bring us back again to, because we touched a little bit on it when we were talking about roles, and the question is kind of along the lines of our culture we're living in today.
Absolutely.
And so, what is the most dangerous cultural belief in modern society for our families that you would think? And this, I'm just throwing it out there for you all three kind of to dialogue, and myself, I suppose, but Pastor Steve and Miss Marilyn, you've been married now for 60 years, I believe. Amazing.
You had to remind us, didn't you?
I have to throw it out there so you can listen to this, because you've seen a lot over the years in society and the culture and different eras and times. And by the way, Miss Marilyn, you have a PhD in counseling. Pastor Steve, you've counseled tons of marriages and families, and you've seen society change. In your estimation, what is the most dangerous cultural beliefs in modern society for our families today?
Are you looking at me?
I am. I am waiting for you to lead.
Come on, you're the head. Come on.
My own personal conviction is the overt objective of society to get rid of God,
Oh, wow.
to get rid of Jehovah.
From the
lots of
families.
gods out there.
Yeah, from the families.
But Jehovah.
From everywhere.
Well, not just families.
Gotcha.
If we can eradicate God,
Yeah.
if we can dismiss him, if we can erase him,
Yeah.
then your opinion equals my opinion.
Yes.
And so if I want to hate someone, what's to stop me? Because I am God. I make my own decisions. I go where I want to go. I do what I want to do. I do it when I want to do it. But in my opinion, there's a concerted effort on the part of major universities across the country
Yes.
to get rid of Jehovah, the author of the Bible, the author and the provider of Jesus into our life, where his blood, his death and resurrection saved us and gave us a pathway to God.
Yeah.
If you can get rid of that, then I'm obligated to listen to no one.
Yeah.
And so anarchy takes over. So if you go to Portland, Oregon,
Yeah.
anarchy,
Yeah.
fire, destruction.
Yeah.
You go to that government, they say, well, they must need that stuff because let them do it. Here, you shoot somebody breaking into your house,
Yeah.
you go to court, you go to jail.
So what you're referring to is our Judeo-Christian values
Are
I
going,
think,
are under
are by the
under
wayside.
threat.
My number one thought, get rid of God, and you've gotten rid of all trouble.
Wow.
The thing is that when it comes down to the family, the structure of the family has been broken down. Children have way too much authority, and they don't really know how to handle it. They don't know who's in charge, so they take charge.
And they're confused.
And so there's confusion there. So you've got a little anarchy there. Then you've got the roles of the husband and wife, and they're not set in, they're in, like Jell-O. Nobody knows, in fact, who's in charge in the home. And we resist any authority. So if I resist authority in the home, then I can resist authority in the church, and then I can resist authority in the community, and the whole structure breaks down.
Yeah.
And you create a void in which everybody is focused on finding out who they are and what they are. We spend all of our time looking at what someone's feeling, what someone's thinking.
Wow.
We can't focus on important matters because we're so focused inwardly. We can't focus on our spouse and their needs. We can't focus on the children's true needs.
Yeah.
All we are focused on is what is my need.
Wow.
What is my,
Very
what do I
selfish.
need?
Very selfish.
Selfishness
Narcissistic.
is just the opposite of love. And we paint it like we're, being true to ourselves. Be who you are. Be the real you.
Concerted effort.
Meet your needs. Well, God didn't say that.
Right.
Wow.
God didn't say that. He said, I'm going to put two people together. I'm going to give you children,
When you say two people together,
man and a wife.
A man and a wife. What do you
Man
mean
and a
by-
wife, a man and a woman. I'm going
Yeah.
to bless you with children. Teach them who I am. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Understand I'm God.
Yeah.
You display me in your home, and you teach it to your children.
Morning, noon, and night.
And then they too will come along and they will teach it to their children. But when we say to the children, well, our faith is important, but if you don't really want to do this, if you don't really want to go to church, we understand you're tired. What you're saying to them, what you want is the supreme importance in our lives. Let me give you a little example. I have a new great-granddaughter.
Oh, congratulations.
And once she...
And to you too, Pastor Steve.
It's
To you
about
too.
time you
Yeah.
got all of it.
I was going
And
to say,
so-
let me throw a bone out there too.
My grandson was telling me, oh, Grandma, he says, she's so cute.
Oh.
He said she was in the playpen the other day and she was going to drop her little toy outside. And he said, I looked at her and I said, now don't do that. And she just grinned at me and dropped it.
She did.
And I said, Jacob, that's
he
cute,
did.
but it's not good.
Uh-oh.
Because what she's already saying is, am I in charge or are you? And you just told her she is.
Oh, wow.
How are you going to like that at 15?
And that's the problem is we began to let them do things. We had a friend, and his little 2-year-old came up and just whacked him one day. She was
my
mad,
goodness.
and she came up behind him, and that little tiny fist, and she hit him or he hit him. I can't even remember which gender the child was, and he was laughing at her, and I thought. It was a boy, because I thought, you wait till he's 15 if he comes up and hits you like that. Because she was trying her hardest
Yes.
to hit him. That's just happened. Her physical body just can't make the impact. But the effort
Was
there.
Yeah.
And I don't like you. I don't like
Yeah.
what you said. That doesn't matter. I don't care whether you
Yeah.
like
It's
me.
not cute.
That's
Yeah,
not
we're-
cute.
I'm not your friend. I'm your parent.
Correct.
And I represent God and his authority.
Yeah.
And you cannot do that.
Yeah. I want to bring us back a little bit more too. And you mentioned that about the importance of being a parent, not a friend. People say, well, she's my best friend. And well, that's good. I'm glad that we're friends. But number one, I'm your dad. I'm your mom. And
Right.
I will lay down
Always.
the law. And you
Always.
need to listen.
We need to realize that teenagers don't have developed brains yet. I mean, 16 is not an age, it's a disease.
Yep. We
And-
quoted that a few times.
And if we don't,
And we love you, teenagers, if you're listening to this. Listen,
oh, we love what you're going to be. But anyway,
Absolutely love you.
but for me, that's we need to realize that as parents that they can't make
And you know what?
rational decisions.
They want that from us.
They do
They're
want
boundaries.
Crying out.
Boundaries.
for
They're
boundaries.
crying out. There's been studies upon studies that they did a survey on the teenagers, and they're saying, please, mom, whenever you think that your involvement is not appreciated, in reality, it is. Whenever you say, I don't want you dating that young man, and I say, no, I'm going to date him anyway, what I'm really saying is, thank you for putting boundaries in my life. When I'm on the phone and you put everything, and there were just like surveys after surveys that were being done on teenagers in this culture, they're really want their parents' involvement. They really want their parents back again to the purpose and the role, to take the role of a dad, to take the role of a mom and be there for them. They're crying out so desperately. It broke my heart when I saw that survey about those teenagers. This generation is just hungry for mom and dad. No confusion. I want to bring us back to that word confusion, because it seems like in our culture there's a lot of confusion with sexuality, a lot of confusion with roles, a lot of confusion with, we can't even talk about it because of wokeness. We can't talk about, listen, this is the way it is. It is written in the Bible. It has worked for millennia. It has worked in our society. Right. This has brought good established families. We cannot even speak about it.
Yes, we can.
Without being
Censored.
censored,
We are censored.
right? I mean, that is the
That's
truth.
truth.
Well, isn't it true that what they're trying really to do is to call the Bible archaic because it doesn't fit our culture, instead of us saying, you got to stop that and make your culture fit the Bible.
Yeah, we're no longer relevant.
But
that's
we,
right.
how often have you said, even at home, things like, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. If daddy ain't happy,
Nobody
who
cares.
Who cares? Yeah.
And we even laugh at those things.
Yeah.
But it's establishing a mindset.
It is.
Little kids will say, oh, never mind, daddy, I'll ask mama.
Yeah.
Mama needs to say, I'm going to check with your dad.
That's good.
We've got to get back to the parenting role where we're in harmony, and it's us two because God created one,
Yes.
Right.
not two opinions,
Yes.
not two fist fighters, not
Yes.
two separate people. He took us and made us one, and our
Amen.
kids need to see us as one.
That's good. I love that. Babe, you want to chime into that? Our
I
kids?
like that.
Yeah.
I like that because kids are smart and they will pick a side.
Oh, yeah.
There's a good parent and there's a bad parent.
They'll use you.
And they will use it, and there is power.
You are the bad parent, or
I
no,
am
you're
the,
you're the
I
good
am
parent.
no,
You're
I
good
am the
parent.
mean one in our house. I
You're
am the
the
bad
mean
parent. So
one.
everybody goes to daddy.
Mrs. Grinch.
Example. They wanted a Super Bowl party at our house
What,
this
a
Sunday.
party? No.
Nobody came to mommy to ask for a Super Bowl party. I found out through a
Who's going to host it?
I found out through a guest that's coming to our house because they went to daddy and daddy okayed it.
That is just loving.
So mommy had to remind daddy that daddy has to talk to mommy so that the kids know that we're in unity.
So he's
are
still
together.
dysfunctional.
There's some
He's working
dysfunctionality.
on it. He is really, and the kids they will pick out that dysfunctional
Well,
characteristic and they will
I call
exploit it.
I call it.
They're
the-
smart.
I call it the grace of God. The grace of God over my life.
They are smart, but I mean, all jokes aside, kids do pick out those things and they
Absolutely.
manipulate that to their advantage. They
Absolutely.
are so smart. So we as parents do really have to keep the unity
Yes.
among us and put together that front of togetherness so
Absolutely.
the kids know there is no good parent, bad parent, or we're both
We're in this together.
in this together.
and it really is an effort. Like I had to go and apologize to the wife. I'm so sorry. There is a party coming down here. But
By the way.
Buy some popcorn.
Araceli, I'll make you feel a little better. One night, Steve and I were sitting in.
Oh, no. This really necessary?
It is absolutely.
I
It
think
is
she
not
needs-
necessary.
She needs this.
And for
She
all the
needs-
women out there going through this,
We were sitting at the table eating dinner, 2 children. We had a nice dinner, finished it all.
We were at the finger-licking stage.
And
Oh,
all of
no.
a sudden, this lovely family came walking to the door, all dressed up very
Nice.
nicely. And my husband looked at me and said, "Is it Tuesday night?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "Oh, I invited them for dinner."
oh my gosh,
no.
there was not enough. And you were calling
You
it
know,
pizza
at that
place.
moment, it took a great deal of presence to just stay
man.
seating at the table. I really wanted to go upstairs and say, "You handle this.
Yes.
You
But
cook. You do it all.
Well, you take care of this."
Take care of it. Call
Oh.
You
pizzeria,
see,
whatever.
It was even worse than that. That was, again, we were in Italy. And
Go to the piazza.
on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, everything was closed. I couldn't even take them out to
Oh
dinner.
my Lord. You're in so much
And
trouble.
we invited them
Funny.
again and said, listen, this is a horrible mistake.
Yes.
My wife got the dates confused.
Yeah, my wife. I love
no,
that.
you
Yeah.
didn't.
My wife.
No, I didn't
love
do that. But anyway,
Throw her under the bus.
I invited them back and they didn't come.
I bet. I bet. After that one first
Just you
experience.
just suck us into that one more time.
Oh, wow.
So, Araceli, feel
Yeah.
better.
Thank you.
At least I found out a few days ahead of
I
time.
feel better now too. Let's come back again to the roles of the family here in our Hispanic community. I don't know where you guys might be hearing this from, and maybe this is culturally speaking in all of our societies, but very prevalent in the Hispanic community to talk about the in-laws. What role do the in-laws play in a marriage, in a family? In the Hispanic community, they play a big role, right?
They do.
And your estimation, what role should they play in a marriage, or that you have seen what have you seen that is healthy and that is not healthy?
Well, we have seen where the spouse or the wife or the husband is so attached. In the Bible, the first place it says the husbands are to leave the home. Father, you leave your father, your mother, and you cling to your wife.
Yeah.
So in my estimation, when you come together as husband and wife, you are a new family.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are a new family.
good.
The other is an extended family, but it is not your family. Your family is your husband and the children that you will have.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think they always have wisdom to give you.
Yes.
They shouldn't be living in your house and you shouldn't be living in theirs unless financially you just cannot do it differently.
Okay, let's stop there for a minute. You're saying they should not live in your house.
No.
Well, how many kids with their... It seems so nowadays that kids move away, they go to college, they get married, and they bring the wife back and 2 kids.
It's like the boomerang.
And I don't
send
want to
them
go
out,
to
they
work.
come back to you.
See, you're all going to look good on a street corner.
You need that time apart so that you become one. It doesn't happen overnight.
Wow.
And you can't become one if you're constantly being guided through parental discretion and advice.
Wow.
Because you need to make your mistakes and you need to figure out how to overcome them
That's good.
without somebody else's opinion.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, remember biblically that a man, if he got married, couldn't even go to war for a year until he got to know his wife
Wow.
in the Israeli community.
I love that. I can spend all year getting to know you, girl. I mean, come on.
Too late now. It's been 20 years.
Let's bring that. Let's bring
If you
that
don't know
back,
me by
Rudy.
now.
If you don't know her yet, buddy,
Well,
you're
no.
done.
Well,
There's a song, If You Don't Know Me by Now.
Hey, I say, man, let's bring. Well, I need payback. For 1 year. Let's just go to Cancun or.
I asked a woman one time, I said, how are you enjoying your husband's retirement? She said, are you kidding me? She said, I got twice the husband and half the money. What do you think?
Not good.
That's going back.
That's going. Oh my Lord.
That's going back.
But back again to this. So you were mentioning a fact that not to bring the parents. You would not advise that.
No, I would not advise staying in your parents' home. I do.
Or them coming to your home.
No, not. And they used to say, you need to be far enough away that, mom doesn't know what's in your kitchen cabinets.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know what that means exactly.
Yes, you do.
But
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
you have your own life and your own privacy.
Well, we did. We moved
We did.
You moved a few miles away.
a few countries away.
A few
countries away. We did.
across the
What about
Atlantic.
financial support? Because I think that's something that we hear about here too.
True.
The kids having to help financially.
The mom or the
parents
dad,
or-
the parents, give them money.
Well, we have to be careful about how cemented we are in our
Right,
opinions,
right.
Because everything has variance. If you have parents that are starving to death, certainly you take care of them. Of
course.
The Bible talks about you take care of the elderly.
Yes.
So I think your question was related to healthy parents
Correct.
or healthy in-laws
Correct.
with a healthy marriage.
Correct.
And how does that interaction happen?
Correct.
Don't let that morph into don't ever send them a check because they're 95 years old and
Right.
can't afford their
Correct.
medicine.
In other words, not lack of honor, because the
Right.
Bible does mention
Right.
that,
Lack
right?
of
Honor
honor.
your father
Big
and your
time.
mother, right?
Big
That's
time.
one of the 10 Commandments right there.
And so we can't be really solid or cemented into one. And that sometimes when we get in something like this podcast, it comes across like this is what you're supposed to do. Kick them
be
out of your house.
disloyal.
That's not what we're saying.
Right.
Right.
Circumstances always
Right.
dictate your
Different
responses to
situations.
that circumstance.
Right.
But in reality, what she's talking about from a healthy, maybe you got parents that are 50
Yeah.
and you guys are 20 or 25. I think that what they do is they offer advice and you either take or reject. You don't become obligated to it because they said it.
Correct.
Right. And your finances, the husband's finances go first to his family in their needs.
Correct.
Now, you don't need to go out and buy a fancy motorcycle or a car and tell your parents, if you've got a light bill I'm not going to help you with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm paying for my motorcycle.
But I had a girlfriend who her parents got themselves into quite deep debt, credit card debt.
Yeah.
With her husband's permission, they went to her family and they said, "We will pay your debt. You will give us all your credit cards, and we will never do it again. We will do it this one time."
That's good.
Well, they were in harmony.
Yeah, good.
First of all,
Good.
they really did help a need,
Yeah.
but they drew a boundary around it at the
Good.
same
I
time.
love that, a boundary.
So if mom and dad need a new refrigerator and you can help them and you
you're
can
able
agree
to.
on that, then do so. But if it means you can't put food on the table,
Yeah.
then you have to say, "No, I'm sorry."
So family is always first. In other words, I got married. I need to take care of my wife first and her needs.
and that's your
as a man.
responsibility.
And that's
as a
your
husband.
responsibility.
As a husband and my kids.
And your kids.
And leave them a legacy, meaning property
or something.
or something for the kids. I'm always looking ahead for my children's children, right? Now, if of course we brought up the conversation about maybe a mom that lost her husband and she is now a mom of a couple, shall we say, and now she is a widow. And we might have to bring her in because she doesn't have the funds to support herself anymore.
But it's
or
up
sick.
to the husband in that home to explain the ground rules
Boundaries.
to the mother-in-law that's coming,
Correct.
either his mother or mother-in-law.
Or mother-in-law.
It doesn't matter, but he needs to explain, we
love
really
that.
want to help you. We really want to do this. But here we go. You don't come complaining.
Yeah.
You don't come telling my wife how to clean
Run
the kitchen.
house, yeah.
Matter of fact, you might want to say, you start cleaning the kitchen. but
Take care of the
you have
kids.
to be very careful that the boundaries are established
Yeah.
for that help.
That's good.
It's not blanket.
Yeah. And that has to be established
Prior.
prior to.
Right.
Because
Before
once
the
she goes
doorbell
in-
rings.
Yeah, I've heard of mother-in-laws coming in, live with the kids or the couple, and they start changing draperies and getting involved with the decor of the house and
Well,
This'll sound-
even the relationship between the husband and wife, you shouldn't let him do that. Or
Yeah.
why do you
Yeah.
let her do that? Why do you let her
Yeah.
spend that money? That's way beyond their
well,
right.
now speak on, because you are
Well,
also
my comment would be the front door is the same size as the back door.
Yeah.
If you don't live up to your boundaries, you're out of here.
Yeah, that's good. But now speak on the other end. Now you have kids and you see them in their marriage, because both of you have two kids
Yes.
married, and you see them making mistakes as dad and mom that have two kids that are married. How much do you get involved when you see, oh my Lord, this is not heading in the right direction, or I need to give them a word of advice, or how much do you, back again to that word healthy, do you get involved in that?
I let me answer that, because I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer it just like preaching.
Come on.
If I preach a sermon,
Yeah,
it's only my obligation to share it.
that's good.
It's somebody's other's obligation to either reject or accept.
So you do get involved, at least to share.
I would share, and then I would go away.
You won't bring it back again.
Nope. You can only tell them how dumb they are once. And you have to be very careful with that. But I think it's up to us to say, we see a red flag here.
Yeah.
However, they have to live it out. And every action creates a reaction.
Yeah.
Every action creates a consequence.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell them about our grandson. His dad was giving him the consequence lecture.
So your son.
Yeah. Oh,
Mark,
my son, he spends a lot of time with his sons, and they're
Good.
18 and 21.
Now this is Steve, right? Your son is Steve.
Yeah.
Steve.
And he was given the lecture on consequences.
Oh, nice.
And his youngest son, who's a weightlifter and wrestler,
And how old is he? At
He's
the time he was.
17 now.
At the time he
No, he was about 15.
was about 15 at the
Yeah,
time.
and he said, Dad, why are you telling us about consequences? They haven't even happened yet.
Smart kid. He's a Sorenson. He's a Sorenson for sure.
Well, My son just shook his head and said, well, I'll have to bring this up again later. He didn't quite get it.
That is funny.
Because whatever you do is going to create a consequence.
Yes, absolutely.
And once we tell them,
Yes,
then they get to live with their decision.
absolutely.
You know, it's a hard thing, but your question does bring up some, you know, I've known people to go ahead and address an issue, but the children get so upset with the discussion. One of my friend's daughters was just a terrible housekeeper, and it just got worse as the years were going on. And so her mother said, you know, I didn't raise you like this, Kim. You know, you should have
Kim,
kept
if you're
your-"
listening to this, Kim, it's not you, Kim. It's another Kim.
It's another Kim.
Yes.
Our daughter's name is Kim.
That's true.
So
Yeah, but it was
he's telling you the truth, baby.
Yes, Kim. It's not you. It's another Kim.
and her daughter became so angry she wouldn't speak to her mother for quite a while. So sometimes you have to,
Oh, she became very angry.
because her mother said anything. So I think
And
what
it was
you,
just an advice.
yeah, but
Wow.
and again, the same lady, her granddaughter was doing something she didn't feel was Christian, and she brought to it, and the granddaughter exploded on her.
Wow.
So, you know, pray about it and approach it knowing that it may or may not be received well.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
You really have to know which swords to fall on.
Wow. It's good.
Is this just something that I don't agree with, or is this really going to hurt her in the long run?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. How
it's
important is it really?
really how important.
The consequence of talking about the consequence of them following through with their original track or plan,
Right.
And what kind of consequence it will have on them. If this is a horrible consequence, then I want to chime in.
I want to chime in. I had read an article of two sisters, and that can happen with siblings. And one sister went to pick up the other one for lunch, and she found her sister in the coffee room at work talking to a gentleman, and she didn't feel comfortable with their interaction, and she immediately brought it up at lunch.
Now, this sister was married already.
Yeah, the two sisters were married.
I gotcha.
And she said, this isn't good for you. But she saw something she felt needed to be addressed now.
Good.
It didn't matter whether sister got banned.
Nah,
Didn't matter.
That's good.
This was dangerous.
That's good.
The other thing about the clean house, that, you know, if the husband lived with it, really, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I've kind of noticed over the years that when you bring up advice to someone else,
Yeah.
you can tell the barometer of how right you are
Yeah.
is shown in how mad they get.
Ah.
If you're saying something to somebody that is inaccurate,
Yeah.
they typically aren't going to get mad at you because it isn't true.
They'll oversee it.
But let me tell you that when you tell something that strikes a real bone,
Yeah.
the madder they get, the righter you were.
Ah, good.
And they know that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
But they're
interesting.
not going to change
that's true.
until they're ready to change.
Isn't
And
that-
none of
that's
us do.
Yeah.
None of us do. I mean, I could tell you, this is what you ought to do. I do that all the time with you, and you don't do it.
Well, because
No, don't say
because I'm dysfunctional.
Well, I think it's as parents, we're always going to be parents. So no matter how old the kids are, we're always going to have the heart of a parent and
Yeah.
want to see the best for our kids.
Yeah.
So it's hard to not see a
Yeah.
danger and warn, right?
Yeah.
Whether, like you said, whether they receive it or not, it's really up to them, and we can't take it personal if they don't listen to us.
Well, there's a difference between advice and nagging.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yes.
So I suppose the rule of thumb will be: listen, I told you once, as you mentioned,
done.
I preached it once.
Have at it.
Have at it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, now the consequence, because life itself is difficult.
How many times have we heard somebody say,
Pain.
I should have listened?
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
I should have listened.
The pain
Yes.
of
Right.
life itself.
Right.
will
And we saw it
train.
coming. Now, I have to tell you, in a hypothetical situation, if a kid says, Dad, I'm going to go buy this Cadillac,
Yeah.
and he can really afford a Ford,
Yeah.
I think there's two kind of cars,
Yeah.
a Ford and a can't afford.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
says,
You're
I'm going to
just
buy
dreaming.
a
You're
Mercedes.
dreaming.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
buy
yeah.
a BMW. I'm going to
Yes.
buy. And I say to him, very foolish because you don't have that money.
Yes.
That's not going to work out well for you.
Yes.
If he comes to me in 6 months and says, Dad, I can't make the payments,
Yeah.
I would tell him, kiss your car goodbye. because I'm not paying for
Come
it.
on, that's
Right.
good.
Because I've already
I'm
told
not going
you.
to bail you out.
Yeah, I've already told you.
Right.
Face the consequence.
Right.
Yeah.
Live
Now,
with your
that's
decision.
that is so mean, Pastor Steve. That is so mean of you.
Yeah, but I feel better, and so is my bank account.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, listen, we come to a close, but before we can close,
Already?
yeah, isn't that been interesting? I hope you've enjoyed it just as much as I've enjoyed this conversation with Pastor Steve and Miss Marilyn. And I want to bring it to a close by maybe the two of you giving families maybe a word of advice. It could be anything. It could be something that you've already said.
They're already married? The ones we're talking to?
Correct. They're already married.
Okay.
Some words of hope, perhaps, or just a word of advice, or something that has been stirring in your heart, maybe something that we already talked about. And just share with them and tell them from your heart an advice or a word of encouragement, whichever of the two. What would that be?
Your turn.
If you're having questions about your relationship with your spouse, with your children, with your extended family, it takes two of you. Sit down, thank the Lord that you have each other.
Come on, that's good.
Thank the Lord for what you do have.
That's good.
Pray about the problem, and when you talk about it, come in not defensively, but for a fact-finding discussion. Where are we? What is the real problem?
Yeah.
How do we work on it? The whole idea being, we are going to fix this.
That's good. I love that. We are going to fix this. I love that. Pastor Steve?
I guess what I would say is reestablish your purpose.
That's good.
A little self-analysis, a little walking backwards, and see what needs you came into the relationship with and where you're going. Now, I'm talking to a couple that might be experiencing a little bit of trouble.
Come on.
If I'm talking to a couple that are not experiencing any trouble, reinvest in your purpose to make sure that you're still on the same page that you were on before. Go forward with a sense of joy and enthusiasm. But in my opinion, if you're having and experiencing problems, find out what your need is. Find out what's not getting met, and then share it with your spouse.
I love that.
Spend some quality time, because if you're not honest with your spouse, they're really not your partner. And you need a partner. You need a companion. You need somebody to walk with. And if you can't be honest with them, who in the world can you be honest with?
Right.
I promise you this, guys, and I'm speaking to guys, if you don't treat your wife with respect and with love and do what you can to meet her needs, she ultimately will find somebody that will.
Oh.
And so to head off any of those problems of the future, be certain that you're meeting her needs. And now, ladies, start meeting his needs.
Yeah.
And you'll never be able to do that until you talk about what your needs are.
Yeah.
So if you need counseling, go get it.
Yes.
Don't hesitate. Don't wait, because nothing that's broken ever fixes itself. It only gets worse.
That's right.
So get after it. Have a great marriage, and be married for 60 years.
60
Or
beautiful-
80.
or 80. 60 beautiful
Ooh, I
years.
scared you that time,
Oh,
didn't
that
I,
was
baby?
man, Pastor Steve. That was a good sermon right there, man. It was a, bam,
I'm sure-
powerful.
Okay, and then start sending your money to. No. I was going to take an offering.
Any donations? I don't know, baby. If you have some last words.
No, I think he stole mine.
Wasn't that great?
Everything he
I
was
mean,
going to
the
say,
two.
I was going to say.
Just
no.
say ditto.
I say ditto. And I will just emphasize, which I had said when we started. If you're having difficulties, find a
Yes.
mediator.
Amen.
A good mediator. Don't go to a
Christian
crazy
Right.
world
Lunatic.
Absolutely
lunatic
true.
counselor, because they're going to encourage you to separate, be done with him.
Yeah.
You don't need him. Go to a Christian mediator, a
Absolutely.
God-centered.
good.
That's going to give you some God-centered advice.
Pastor Vic in Brownsville, Texas at ICC.
I don't know if I'll be the best mediator.
Okay, go to Araceli.
Araceli would probably be much better than I would.
There you go.
But listen, everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. And whether it was through video or maybe you were watching us at any one of our, this podcast, any one of our venues, listen, God loves you. We absolutely love you. And we can't wait to see you soon again.